today we're looking at a T-lock roof. Now these are virtually extinct. These type of shingles kind of were discontinued quite a long time ago. So this roof in particular is about 22 years old, in that range. We're not sure exactly because the permits are wonderfully well kept in this area. We do know a lot of the neighbors' roofs are about half that age. They were devastated by a storm that happened in 2014, and prior to that, 2011. Now there has been some hail recently, nothing too severe, but we do have some damages. And so what we're looking at on T-locks. Now this is going to be different because normally on a shingle, the areas you avoid trying to look for damage for are the overlaps. So you would be here. So generally you would try to avoid marking damage on the white areas there. However, because it's T-lock, we have some additional areas. You see, when T-lock were put on, they actually interlocked into each other. And so you wind up with these weak points here. So anywhere where you see a white line are areas where I'm generally not going to be looking for damage. Now, it's not to say they can't be damaged. In fact, they're weaker against damage. But on the cheaper variety of T-locks and older ones, you will especially notice damages in the corners. Now, this is in relatively great shape, so we aren't actually experiencing too much of that here. So we're kind of looking for any major issues. Now you'll spot one here. Some people would call that hail. It's not. That's just natural edge deterioration. You'll notice it happens a lot on a lot of shingles. You do get some contractors that try to mark those up and try to get paid for them. It just isn't the case. So just kind of going side to side here. Over on this side. Now we do have a spot here to look at. Now what you'll notice, there's no granules in it. It's a completely clean area, so I'm going to try to hold that still for best quality of image. So there's nothing there indicating it's hail. It may look like hail at first, but that's just either a blister or a scrape mark, one of the two. Honestly, it looks more like a scrape. And so, truth be told, on this roof, I'm just not seeing anything. One of the other common damages, yeah, you can kind of notice there. See that little spot there? That's that overlap. That's where I was talking about how we're going to avoid that. And then this one here, this edge. So when T-locks overlap, you'll notice how there's a little bit of give there. So they overlap. So there's a seam right there underneath it. So more than likely that's from somebody stepping on it. So that's boot scuff is what we would label that. Now if you ever have some damages and you're not quite sure and it's kind of a maybe, you can look at your ridge. And so you will notice they used a far inferior ridge to the main shingle. There's a bit. One spot I really love is to check the metals. So I've got a galvanized here. It's got some dents. For that galvanized to be dented, it had to be a substantial storm. But like I said, this has lived through 3 storms. Look at the rust on this. This is the original cap. This was probably built with the building, and the building itself is closer to 30-40 years. So we've got a newer looking cap here. I did actually find a storm date on here earlier. It was 2012. So you can kind of notice how there's some small marble-sized indentations. We're going to look for spatter, which are areas that are clean on here. You do see some minor spatter. That's indicative of maybe at most a pea-sized storm. I've chalked all the box vents. All the box vents are clean. Now we do have a pretty devastated cap over here. It's still painted. I'd guess that's probably the original cap when the house was built too. So we really just don't have anything here that even possibly could indicate hail damage to the roof. You know, even if I had a lot to the elevations, I still have to find it on the roof. But sometimes if the roof is in between, you can use the elevations to justify it. Truth be told, I just don't have it here. And so that's kind of a quick, easy guide just to checking for hail on a T-lock. I wish I had some actual hail to show you. I'll be happy to film a video if I ever come across another T-lock. that actually has hail damage. But if I'm being honest, you can see all these houses from here, and I doubt more than maybe 2 of them, maybe 3 of them that you're seeing still have T-lock on them. This whole area was pretty devastated by a hailstorm in 2014. There was a bad one in 16 too, but it was only like 1.5 inches compared to the storm prior to it was closer to 2 inches. The storm in 2011 was, I'm not sure if that hit this neighborhood. It hit nearby here, about a half mile that way. But that storm was 2.5 inches, and then there was a storm prior to that, I want to say 2006, that would have been a 2.5-inch storm that should have hit this neighborhood. So, but at that time, this roof would have been new enough that it probably wouldn't have been damaged or even noticed it. T-locks are historically very durable. When put on right, they are one of the most superior systems when it comes to asphalt shingles. Now, I've talked before about asphalt shingles being pretty low on the level of roof quality. T-locks, I would say, is an exception. If we still had them around, they were one of the better roofs. They did have their issues. 99% of them had to deal with who was installing them and how they were installed, but once they figured out how to install them, these were an amazing roof system. I guarantee you that any storm that would damage this roof would damage every one of its neighbors, but a lot of the neighbors are going to be replaced here in the next couple years just from the regular hailstorms in the area, and this T-lock will probably still be here possibly another decade to come. That's just how much more durable they are.